Gomes, what is your opinion about today's debate on Frontex, which is going, or they are planning to make it into one more agency? Because it's a lot of confusion. We can't really understand the concept.
Well, I'm very pro-European, and everything which will mean working in a more European fashion to deal with the problems which are transnational, I'm all in favor. But I have doubts that indeed this step that the Commission is now intending to give will be fully backed by member states, no matter how much is the pressure being put by member states, but not in the right direction, in my opinion, because what they want is not to uphold the responsibilities of the Union in what concerns migrants and refugees. Is actually the opposite. It's to actually put the Union in charge of preventing migrants and refugees to come and actually even returning them. In my opinion, this is inconsistent with our principles and values, and it would be totally inconsistent with our historical responsibilities. I think there are ways that the European Union and the Commission and Member States, the Council, could have followed to actually ensure a better control of the borders, but they haven't done it. One way is actually to open safe and legal avenues for migrants and refugees to be able to put their application to enter into the EU. It would be a good way to actually ensure security in our borders and to actually not push these people into the hands of the human traffickers and to continue to give a profit to the human traffickers who actually bring these people in any way they can out of despair to save their lives and to escape from oppression or misery or war. I myself am in favor of a European Coastal Guard agency. Actually, 2 years ago, in a report which I authored and which was adopted by the Parliament on the maritime dimension of the European security and defense policy, CSDP, I was proposing that indeed we would invest in at least a coastal guard function to actually protect our borders. And what really puzzles me is that now there is this talk about creating a European Coastal Guard agency, which would be a stepped up Frontex, but there's no reference of indeed, and no mention of indeed taking advantage of the experience of our navies, which have a long historical experience in exactly the kind of things that they're supposed to, Coastal Guard agency is supposed to do, namely protection of our borders. And then we see as well, and so when we proposed it, the Parliament 2 years ago, then the Council actually barred it from being integrated in the European strategy for maritime security. So it's weird that now suddenly the member states wake up and want a Coastal Guard agency and make it out of Frontex. But at the same time, we see that Frontex is not being reinforced as it should have been to actually meet the needs, namely with dealing with the refugee crisis, namely, for instance, to operate the hotspots, the welcoming centers that have been created on the paper, but which have not translated into reality, except for 1.5. They were supposed to be 14, and you have 1.5 actually functioning, 1 in Lampedusa and half in Lesbos, in Greece.
But if our Frontex failed, actually it failed, so how they can build on something that is a failure?
I wouldn't say that Frontex failed, but Frontex was not meant for the kind of tasks it's now being tasked with. It obviously needs more people, more training. It's not overnight that you change things, that you train people. And I feel that there is indeed a tremendous waste of the capacities that we have, for instance, in our navies for for maritime surveillance and security, which are completely lost because indeed there is not the necessary articulation between the external and the internal dimension. Navies are military operate in the framework of our external dimensions, defense, but more and more the problem like those posed for our security and the need to protect refugees and migrants who are trying to come to us, and namely by maritime ways, it involves an articulation between the military and the civilian means, but nobody talks about that, and I don't see that reflected in the proposal of the Commission. And yes, on the idea, why give such aim to the Frontex, transforming it in a coastal guard? I would be in favor of it, but then you need the means, and you haven't been able to actually provide the means, namely the staff and the equipment to Frontex to just perform the role they are supposed to perform in the hotspots where migrants and refugees are supposed to re-register. And then, as I tell you, can we actually have means to guarantee surveillance in every inch of our seas or of our land borders? No. Why aren't we actually smarter and actually design corridors for people to come for their applications being considered, so that they are not indeed handed to the traffickers who smuggle them in?